What's the most ridiculous rule in your place of work? I once needed a pen. I figured this was a reasonable ask, so I went to the supply closet on my floor, which was locked. I asked the floor's admin. She told me to go to the main supply room in the basement. Went to the basement and explained my situation of needing a pen. They told me all requests for supplies must be approved by my department head. The problem is, being new, I'd never met my department head. She also worked in San Francisco when I worked in Milwaukee. So I needed to send an email both to introduce myself and asking her if I had permission to get a pen from the supply closet. Wow, that is some workplace efficiency. I hope I get to work there one day. All recreational activity is forbidden on company time and resources, except fantasy football. You know, I remember back when I was growing up and I would be playing video games all the time, and all the people who were obsessed with football used to call me a nerd. But now it's time for me to tell all the fantasy football fans, you guys are nerds. 2 weeks after I left my previous job, a memo went round saying people weren't allowed to look out the window at work anymore. It's a big glass building. Hey, you weren't looking out the window, were you? No, I was just looking at my watch. I don't believe you. We're covering your window in tinfoil. No accusing other staff members of being witches. Yeah, it happened, so we had to make a rule. I run a hostel in Uganda. Yeah, I don't know what it is about so many countries in Africa that are just like terrified of witchcraft. I used to work for a large bank. We had an attendance policy that was so complicated, it actually created an incentive for employees to take an entire day off rather than be tardy too often. So I'm starting to realize that the larger group of people you have, the harder it is to just create a blanket rule for everybody. It's a lot better to just have a lot of smaller groups that kind of regulate themselves and play it by ear. We have a lock on the first aid kits, so if you just need a band-aid for your cut, you have to get the key from the safety guy, which in turn makes it a reportable accident, with mountains of paperwork and investigations. We use an unbelievable amount of duct tape now. See, that's how you get everybody to just bring their own first aid kit and just leave them at their desk. Because believe it or not, you don't have to have some license to buy those. Anybody can just go get one. I drive valet. The company handbook says you're never allowed to back up. Ever. You absolutely cannot do the job without reverse. It's impossible. It's in there because of liability and our insurance policy. This way it can always be the valet's fault if an accident occurs ever. Yeah, I figure it might be a little bit hard to get out of a parking spot when you're only allowed to go forward. I guess you're just gonna have to barge right through that wall. All the extra toilet paper in the building has to stay in a single closet where it can be overseen by the toilet paper queen. I heard her shrieking the other day when she discovered someone had hoarded one spare roll of toilet paper upstairs, so the people who work upstairs wouldn't have to walk down multiple flights of stairs when the toilet paper ran out. Man, it's so funny because like there are so many companies out there that are just insanely wasteful. Like they will spend thousands of dollars on things that should cost like 20 bucks. And yet there are some companies that are just like, well, we just spent an extra $1 on toilet paper, and they just go insane. I guarantee that those companies are still super wasteful too. A rule that said, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Which fairly obviously meant if there was no work, then you should be cleaning things. It was at an aircraft service station that was fairly small, but we needed a crew of at least 3 people for larger planes. The problem was that sometimes there were just no planes, so there was no work. We would clean for a couple hours and then just run out of stuff to clean, but according to management, that was no good. We had to be busy. It got to be that we would fight over work when it came in because everyone was so bored, and finding pretend busy work was much harder than just working. I remember getting the crew together to pick up pebbles off the taxiway for a couple hours. There's an old joke in aviation, go sweep the taxiway. So we actually did it. You know, this reminds me of my old janitor job, where it's like, okay, you have 4 hours every single day to clean the same things every single day. And of course there was plenty to clean every day. You know, you'd take out the garbage, you'd vacuum, and you'd do all that. But even still, after about 2.5 hours tops, it was just like there was nothing left to do. So I ended up just actually taking a nap while on the clock some days as a janitor. I used to work for Amazon in Ireland, and their toilet breaks were crazy. Maximum of 10 minutes a day, but also a max of 20 minutes per week. You had to change the status on your computer so everything was recorded, and some managers would call you out on it and even go as far as to threaten your job. I had an understanding with the manager and told him if I had to take a crap, then I'm going for it. Like any good manager, he just told me that as long as I give him the numbers he wants, then I could do whatever I want. See, I know a lot of people like to call out Amazon saying they're super evil for being so hard on their employees. And it's like, well, I'm not really going to defend Amazon on anything, but any company that is just that horrible to their employees is just going to lose all of their good employees. So they're really just going to pay for it one way or another. When I was in the military, I saw a buddy of mine sitting outside crying. I went and consoled him best as I could. Apparently he was just depressed and unhappy. After he was feeling a bit better, I went to go and find someone to tell them what was happening. They knew. In fact, he had been crying so much lately they had instituted a no crying at your desk policy, which is why he was outside. Well, that's one way to sweep the problem under the rug. Empty inbox. My boss was a no inbox Nazi. Like if you had old emails in there, he would flip and make you respond to them or delete them. Apparently you shouldn't have anything left at the end of the day. Deal with them or delete them. Joke's on him though, I just made a subfolder marked personal and everything went in there. Get screwed, Bill, you old wanker. Man, this is one of those examples of where it's like, I have a preference of how I like to do things, which means I must make everyone else also have that preference. But I mean, it's not even that good of an idea to delete all of your work emails. Like, you kinda need to go back and look at some things. I used to work for the now long defunct books, movies, and music store Media Play. Just one of the 285 reasons that poorly run business ran into the ground was the tardy in attendance policy. If you were literally 1 second late clocking in, even hours before the store opened, it was a really big deal. You'd not only be formally written up, but lectured like a child, oftentimes berated even. If you were tardy 3 times, bye-bye. However, if you no-showed and then called 2 hours later saying you were sick, okay, thank you, feel better. This trained everyone to just take sick days instead of being a half-second late to work. I can't tell you how many times you'd see a coworker screeching into the parking lot before work after fighting traffic from a wreck or whatever, noticing it was 8:01, and then slowly driving off to go home and feign being sick. This was particularly upsetting when it was a pull-down stock week when we needed every hand on deck, but had unusually early shifts. And it's so funny when you're an employee of a company like this, and then you quit, and then like a year later you find out that that company went out of business, and you just get to sit back and laugh. There was an issue where there was too much socializing going on the factory floor, particularly when people were working while sitting down, which was a false, skewed supervisor perception, so they made everybody stand. When that presented ergonomic problems, they brought in these weird chairs that made you sit at a slant, and had no back, and no wheels, so they wouldn't cause distractions. No part of it made any sense. I think cases like this usually come when bosses see their employees as just cogs in a machine rather than just actual people. So when you feel like you can just tweak some things on your control board and you can solve the issue, it's not always going to work so well. My workplace doesn't let you use the word problems. Instead, we have to say challenges if something is wrong, as a problem is a negative word, and challenges promotes the fact that there is room to fix said problem. Man, what is this, a kindergarten? I'm pretty sure you can solve a problem too. Firemen. Our risk management department decided long ago that poles were too risky for us, so we use the stairs. We have poles. Anyway, now the newest rule is no free weights. As in, no free weights to work out and stay fit. Go into a burning high-rise? Absolutely. Walk around the station carrying 40-pound dumbbells? Too risky. I guess I hadn't really thought much about it, but what do firefighters do when there's just nothing going on? They probably have plenty of free time just to sit around. I mean, depending on the area. I used to work at a place in which my boss implemented a no more than 2 glasses a day water policy. What a jerk. I ignored this rule and complained directly to our CEO, and the matter ended later that day. What was weird though was that the majority of people actually followed the rule, and some even shopped me up to HR about breaking the rules. I left not long after that because not only was my boss a bellend, but if my colleagues were going to HR over me drinking water, then I obviously couldn't trust them. Yeah, the only thing worse than a tyrant is all the sheep that go along with the orders. Many years ago, I was a vacuum cleaner salesman. There were songs about this particular brand of vacuum cleaner and how awesome it was. Every morning we had to sing these songs as a group. In fairness, it was a pretty quality item. Yeah, I've seen videos of like Walmart employees being forced to get into a group and sing some chant or something. And I get that they're trying to like boost morale, but really it's just 10 times more soul-crushing. I once worked at a place where some mini-boss decided that since UPS trucks don't turn left, we shouldn't either. I don't know or care how well that worked out for UPS, but this was an ambulance company with a 911 contract. I will turn left if and when I need to freaking turn left. Oh man, imagine you're just sitting there like a car wreck, you see the ambulance coming, and they're like, oh, here they come. But then they just drive right past you. They're just like, sorry, we can't make a left turn. We'll drive around the block, we'll be there soon. Business casual dress code, even though I work at home. They Skype me to check. Man, just use a picture of yourself and then just tell them your webcam is broken. I worked as a call receiver. We never saw a customer. We were only on the phones with them. Rule, your hair must only be a natural color. I dyed my hair the exact color that someone from a different shift had, and I was reprimanded. I told them that if the rule is not enforced for everyone, they couldn't single me out. Their reason for letting the other people have that color but not me, mine was my real hair dyed an unnatural color. Hers was a weave that could be changed very easily. Really? Then why hasn't she been asked to change her hair? Because that crap is expensive. They gave up trying to convince me they were in the right. See, whenever I go into job interviews and they're like, you're gonna need to cut your hair, I just say, oh well, thanks for the interview, and I just walk right out. Nah, I'm just kidding, I haven't been to an actual interview in years. If we want to take a full 5-day week off, we need to use 2 vacation days. 1 personal and 2 more vacation days. Can never use 3 vacation days straight. Yeah, how could anyone possibly need to be away from work for more than 4 days at a time? My dad told me this one a while back. He used to work for a PR firm. The way he described the office environment, think The Office, but in the 1980s. The company hired a corporate efficiency specialist to come in and improve things. She came in and implemented all kinds of rules, which seemed to follow some sort of caste system. Her philosophy was, the higher your office rank, the more perks you get. And her idea of perks were number of pictures you were allowed in your cubicle, whether you were allowed to have a potted plant or not, coffee mugs were only allowed to senior employees, others had to use paper cups, being allowed to leave the office for lunch was also considered a perk. Needless to say, a coup soon formed, and she was tossed out on her hiney. Wow, I really look forward to the day where I'm high up enough that I can keep a mug of coffee on my desk. Not my current job, but I used to work for some crazy people. You had to stand in a specific area while eating so they could see you on the camera. Don't talk to customers longer than 3 minutes unless you're making a big sale. Even then, keep it short. Answer the phone within 2 rings. Keep the conversation to less than 30 seconds. You can't talk to your coworkers outside of work. You can't talk to your coworkers while at work, even if there was not a single customer in the store. I'm sure there's more, I just can't think of right now. Man, that's gotta create a really bizarre environment at work. It's like, see your coworkers over there? They do not exist. You never speak to them, don't even look at them. If I find out you added each other on Facebook, you're both fired. Also, if a customer is rambling on a little too much, just kick them out of the store. I had a workplace time our bathroom breaks and deduct them from our allotted 15-minute breaks or lunch. We had to go see the office manager to get a key to open the restroom. As soon as we left his office, he would start a timer. When you got back, he would stop the timer and tell you how much time you needed to deduct from your lunch or next break. They watched our breaks like a hawk. Also, if you made a mistake, they would stand over you and time you while you fixed it and deduct that from your lunch or breaks. You couldn't bring anything that smells for lunch, and they had no way of heating anything up. I worked out my contract and split. Man, some of these are just so ridiculous that it's just like, alright, am I being punked right now? Like, is this some challenge to see how long people will last? You know, if I ever have a company, I think I'm going to have like a training space where they spend the first week or 2, and I'm just going to give them the most bizarre, ridiculous, over-the-top restrictions. And if they don't complain a single time until the end, then I'll fire them. If they do speak up and say that this is ridiculous, then they clearly know how to think for themselves, and I'll actually put them on the real floor. Yeah, that's right, I only hire people who will break the rules. But anyway, that's all for this Monday video. I hope this video will make you feel better about your own job, or maybe make you realize you probably need to quit.